She was out of control. My dad had been molesting me.
This is a petition that the Menendez brothers filed directly with Governor Gavin Newsom.
Yes, celebrity weighs. It has an impact.
Breaking late last night, Governor Gavin Newsom revealing the date when the Menendez brothers will go before a parole board. The governor saying that he's weighing celebrity versus facts. We're listening to his statement and talking about what's next for these high-profile killers. And the search for the missing University of Pittsburgh student intensifies. Surveillance footage showing her last walk out on the beach and her alleged companion returning home alone. Also this hour, we're spotlighting the new charges for the former NICU nurse accused of breaking the bones of premature babies. Plus, we've got more trouble for the mother who allegedly abandoned her kids for years in filth. Officials are saying she also committed welfare fraud. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for what I like to call coffee and court? It's morning time. We're getting all warmed up together for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. So let's start it off like we always do. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. I don't feel bad for him. Prison officials say that Scott Peterson was assaulted after a game of pickleball. They say that he hit the ball directly at another inmate who obviously didn't like that very much, and that inmate gave Peterson a beatdown. They say that his injuries weren't serious enough to warrant a trip to the hospital. He just got a good old-fashioned whooping out in the prison yard. What kills me about this is not that he got a little payback for the cheap shot. Good. What really boils my blood is that this lying, cheating, smug-faced wife and unborn baby killer gets to play pickleball. It's not fair. Sadly, there are many good, upstanding citizens who aren't in prison right now and who haven't killed two people who aren't fortunate enough to be able to play pickleball. But yet, scumbag Scott Peterson gets to. Life isn't fair. Lacey Peterson and baby Connor Peterson should be alive today. Lacey would be 49 years old and Connor would be 23. They are the ones who should be here to play pickleball. But no, Scott Peterson made the selfish decision to end their lives. And for that reason, he shouldn't get to enjoy the fun things in his life. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Hopefully the facts will speak for itself. So I'm very confident.
They're saying I planned it. They're saying I planned it. I would never have my kids alone. That if I was planning it.
In California, the defense is expected to begin today in the celebrity hairstylist murder trial. It resumes at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Maybe today will be the day we'll see Mr. Lover Robert Baker take the stand. In New Hampshire, we're following our newest trial we have for you. This one is called the Bad Blood shooting case for Jason Levesque. This guy's accused of shooting his neighbor 6 times after an argument over snow plowing. That trial is going to start up at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to go there together when it does. In Wisconsin, we've got Reed Galinsky. He's got a motions hearing this morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. He's the teenager who's charged in the stabbing death of his mother. Prosecutors say he was inspired by the Menendez brothers in their story as laid out in the Netflix show. Now, to our top story this morning, bombshell breaking news overnight about the Menendez brothers. It looks like the convicted killers could be one step closer to freedom. California Governor Gavin Newsom revealing on his podcast, that's right, revealing it on his podcast, when Erik and Lyle will appear before a parole board.
Does what the DA just said, does that influence the process that's being conducted by our board of parole hearings? It doesn't. It may influence the court. The court resentencing will continue to go forward. The DA now, the new DA, is pulling back, recommending from the Menendez brothers to be resentenced, but it doesn't impact the process that's underway, that review for clemency in my office or the independent risk assessment that will be concluded on June 13th by the Board of Parole Hearings.
Newsom goes on to say that after the hearing, the parole board will then finalize their risk assessment, and then they will send it to his office. From there, he'll consider the board's findings in that risk assessment as part of his decision as to whether to grant the brothers clemency. Newsom also said that the risk assessment will be sent to the judge for consideration for potential resentencing. Now, earlier this week, we heard the LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman talking about that, saying he does not support resentencing for the Menendez brothers. So we're wondering, will Gavin Newsom grant the siblings clemency? Let's talk about it. Let's bring in our legal eagles we have with us this morning, attorneys Kesia Early and Franz Borghardt. Good morning to you both. Kesia, what are your thoughts on what Gavin Newsom shared last night?
Yeah. It appears that there could be a possibility. I was thinking the same thing. He doesn't have the same ring as the LA district attorney, who really was just opposing it. And he really took time and read the trial transcripts. He really dug deep with all of the trials that occurred with the Menendez brothers and really laid out the reasons why he believed that not only were the Menendez brothers involved, but they consistently lied and failed to take responsibility for their actions. State Attorney Nathan Hochman just really considered the facts. I believe he looked at the trial transcripts and he really laid out that this newly, quote, discovered evidence could have possibly been newly created evidence, because if they had a possibility that it was out there, why didn't the attorney present it in the first place? I don't believe that the Menendez brothers are deserving of mercy because they show consistency of lying. And I do not believe that the punishment was so severe to warrant resentencing. So hopefully celebrity involvement should not override the influence of the court or the facts. And the facts in this case is clear. And I do believe that they should remain in prison.
Kesia, thank you for all of that. I'm so glad you brought up the celebrity factor. This was something Gavin, can't say his name, Gavin Newsom talked about on his podcast. Let's take a listen.
Yes, celebrity weighs. It has an impact, but in what direction does it weigh? Sometimes it's used actually against people because they're so high profile, they're actually held to a higher level of scrutiny and standards. At the same time, you don't want that celebrity also to influence on the other side. So it's a balancing act, but I'm deeply mindful of it. And that's why it's critical that our team independently stress test the nature of celebrity. And that's why I move forward with the Board of Parole hearings to independently review with a group of experts, forensic psychologists, and others, the facts of this case, not borne by any bias because of celebrity.
Franz Borghardt, what do you think when you hear this?
I think announcing this on a podcast is a telegraphing of future decision-making. I think this governor, and look, we have two different politicians with two different positions. One is the district attorney, one is the governor. One is giving good, sound legal reasons for not wanting resentencing and not wanting to overturn anything. And the other is kind of, it feels like testing the waters on the podcast. So I think he's going to grant clemency, but I think he really is going to follow whichever way the wind's blowing politically to give him some political collateral based on that decision. And look, that's the governor's pleasure. Part of being a governor and being able to be the final say in a clemency parole decision is you get to make the decision. Now, what you're basing that decision off of might be good, sound reasoning, and it may be, hey, a lot of people like these two guys, and it's popular to grant them some kind of clemency. But I got to tell you, Julie, it sounds like he's already made his decision.
Yeah, it sure does, Franz. It sure does. I've got another clip for you both where he's talking about the risk assessment that's being done right now on these killers.
There's no guarantee of outcome here. My office conducts dozens and dozens of these clemency reviews on a consistent basis, but this process simply provides more transparency, which I think is important in this case, as well as provides us more due diligence before I make any determination for clemency.
Okay, so he's talking about the process. What about his process here? Franz, you touched on this, and I'm so glad you did. Casey, you know, the thing that struck me, so I was sound asleep on the East Coast last night when apparently he's podcasting. And I'm thinking, okay, so this is the governor. This is something that is official business he's dealing with as a governor, yet somebody correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like a personal podcast to me. It seems like there's some lines being blurred here. I don't know that this is the appropriate place for it. Your thoughts on that?
I agree. When I was reading the link, this lacks professionalism. You would think that he would have held a press conference or had it at, you know, maybe his office, something more formal. But when you're announcing something that will not only impact the Menendez brothers, but also set the precedent, or you're saying that you're going to be consistent, and this case requires more due diligence, it also doesn't appear to be fair. So I agree with my colleague that there's a great possibility just how he's talking. He sounds optimistic. It's more positive as opposed to the district state attorney who held an official presentation, press conference, and really laid it out methodically, and he really went through the evidence. So I was kind of thrown back how this announcement was made on a personal podcast. It kind of seems to elevate his position in the political arena.
Sure does, Casey. It sure does. It seems like he's hoping to do that. We all know the wildfires happened. We all know people were very upset at him. I'm not saying whether it was right or wrong, you know, the decisions he made and things he's done, you know, not for me, but we know he took some serious heat. And so that, I think, can't be ignored at this time when we're looking at this high-profile case. And as you noted, Casey, you contrast Newsom on his podcast where he's got his Twitter, his X handle, you know, embedded in the video so people see that, with Nathan Hochman, who does it the right way, giving the press, you know, the time, you know, to plan for the press conference, and he stands at a podium and goes through the rationale almost like a judge would give an opinion. Let's take a look at a clip from his last one.
The key issue of exhibiting insight, full insight into their crimes, and completely accepting responsibility for their actions. This is where the Menendezes, like Sirhan, also fall short.
Franz, do you think that in Menendez mania, where these guys are actually getting fans and becoming sympathetic figures to some people, do you think that the real true facts of the case, the things we've heard D.A. Hochman talk about, are getting lost, or that people aren't taking the time to learn about them, suborning perjury, all the lies they've told, the fabrications of evidence that they did? Do you think that people just aren't taking the time or don't care? I'm just curious how you think people view the case after the popular docuseries.
So if you're a fan, and I use that word cautiously, if you are a fan and you believe that they should get a free pass because they were abused, which, by the way, is not the law. Unfortunately, the history of abuse, whether it happened or didn't happen, doesn't give you a get out of jail free card as to guilt. Now, it may be a major factor in a parole determination, which, by the way, parole is different than, hey, exoneration. Parole is about considering you as a whole person based on what you were before, what you've done since you've been in the Department of Corrections. So, yeah, I think it's gotten lost. I think that, you know, the irony is what the governor was talking about is celebrity treatment. I think these guys are getting a level of a treatment that most folks wouldn't get that were abused, if they were, in fact, abused. So, and look, they've put themselves in this boat of inability to find them credible by the lying, by the inconsistency. That is what shoots your credibility, Julie. And if you've shot your own credibility, then what are we really relying on?